Welcome back, Wealth Tubers. Today, we're diving into some breaking news from Iowa. Just as Election Day approaches, the latest poll has Kamala Harris surpassing Donald Trump to take the lead. What's behind this shift, and how could it impact the final outcome? Stick around as we break down the numbers and the strategy at play. Kamala Harris now leads Donald Trump in Iowa, a startling reversal for Democrats and Republicans who have all but written off the state's presidential contest as a certain Trump victory. A new Des Moines Register/Mediacom Iowa poll shows Vice President Harris leading former President Trump 47% to 44% among likely voters just days before a high-stakes election that appears deadlocked in key battleground states. The results follow a September Iowa poll that showed Trump with a 4-point lead over Harris and a June Iowa poll showing him with an 18-point lead over Democratic President Joe Biden, who was the presumed Democratic nominee at the time. It's hard for anybody to say they saw this coming. She has clearly leaped into a leading position. Harris leads Trump among likely Iowa voters. Likely voters in Iowa were asked if the general election were held today and the candidates for president were Kamala Harris for the Democrats, Donald Trump for the Republicans, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for We the People, and Chase Oliver for the Libertarians. For whom would you vote? If you already voted, for whom did you vote? Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has abandoned his independent presidential campaign to support Trump but remains on the Iowa ballot, gets 3% of the vote. That's down from 6% in September and 9% in June. Fewer than 1% say they would vote for Libertarian presidential candidate Chase Oliver. 1% would vote for someone else. 3% aren't sure, and 2% don't want to say for whom they already cast a ballot. It's called suppression. Trump criticizes Iowa poll that has him trailing Kamala Harris. The poll of 808 likely Iowa voters, which include those who have already voted as well as those who say they definitely plan to vote, was conducted from October 28th to 31st. It has a margin of error of plus or minus 3.4 percentage points. The results come as Trump and Harris have focused their attention almost exclusively on 7 battleground states that are expected to shape the outcome of the election. Neither has campaigned in Iowa since the presidential primaries ended, and neither campaign has established a ground presence in the state. A victory for Harris would be a surprising development after Iowa has swung aggressively to the right in recent elections, delivering Trump solid victories in 2016 and 2020. The poll shows that women, particularly those who are older or who are politically independent, are driving the late shift toward Harris. Age and gender are the two most dynamic factors that are explaining these numbers. Independent voters, who had consistently supported Trump in the lead-up to this election, now break for Harris. That's driven by the strength of independent women, who back Harris by a 28-point margin, while independent men support Trump, but by a smaller margin. Similarly, senior voters who are 65 and older favor Harris. But senior women support her by a more than 2-to-1 margin, 63% to 28%, while senior men favor her by just 2 percentage points, 47% to 45%. I like her policies on reproductive health and having women choosing their own health care, and the fact that I think that she will save our democracy and follow the rule of law, said by a 79-year-old poll respondent who has already cast her absentee ballot for Harris. The registered Democrat said she identifies as pro-life, but doesn't think anyone should make that choice for somebody else. I just believe that if the Republicans can decide what you do with your body, what else are they going to do to limit your choice? For women, she said. One aspect where Trump does better than Harris. A greater share of his supporters than hers say they are extremely or very enthusiastic about their pick. 76% of Trump supporters say they are extremely or very enthusiastic about their choice, while another 23% say they are mildly or not that enthusiastic. For Harris, 71% are extremely or very enthusiastic, down from 80% in September, while 29% are mildly or not that enthusiastic. The poll shows few likely Iowa voters remain undecided, with 91% saying their minds are made up, compared with 80% in September. That includes 96% of Harris supporters who are firm in their choice and 95% of Trump supporters. In 2020, the Register's Iowa poll showed that Biden and Trump were tied among all likely voters in September. But the final poll before Election Day that year showed independents breaking for Trump, and he ultimately won by 8 percentage points over Biden. This year, independents appear to be turning the other way toward Harris, a move fueled by a growing support among independent women. Independent likely voters, who have supported Trump in every other Iowa poll this year, now favor Harris 46% to 39%. Now, independent women choose Harris over Trump 57% to 29%. That's up from September, when independent women gave her just a 5-point lead, 40% to 35%. Independent men still favor Trump 47% to 37%, numbers that are largely unchanged from September, when independent men supported him 46% to 33%. Overall, Harris holds a 20-point lead with women, 56% to 36%, similar to where she was in September. But Trump's lead with men has shrunk from 27 points in September, 59% to 32%, to 14 points today, 52% to 38%. This year, independents appear to be turning the other way toward Harris, a move fueled by a growing support among independent women. Independent likely voters, who have supported Trump in every other Iowa poll this year, now favor Harris 46% to 39%. Now, independent women choose Harris over Trump 57% to 29%. That's up from September, when independent women gave her just a 5-point lead, 40% to 35%. Independent men still favor Trump 47% to 37%, numbers that are largely unchanged from September, when independent men supported him 46% to 33%. Overall, Harris holds a 20-point lead with women, 56% to 36%, similar to where she was in September. But Trump's lead with men has shrunk from 27 points in September, 59% to 32%, to 14 points today, 52% to 38%. Harris holds a small lead with likely Iowa voters who are younger than 35, 46% to 44% over Trump. Harris's larger support among likely voters 65 and older, who prefer her 55% to 36%, could be a boon, because older Iowans tend to be more reliable voters and show up at disproportionately higher rates. The poll shows 62% of Iowans younger than 35 are likely voters, down from 73% in September. But 93% of seniors say they are likely voters, even higher than the 84% who said so in September. If you want a horse to ride on, you want seniors, because they vote. Donald Trump holds on to base voters, evangelicals, rural Iowans, men. Trump continues to lead with his core base of support: men, evangelicals, rural residents, and those without a college degree. He carries Iowa men 52% to 38%, and evangelicals 73% to 20%. A 26-year-old poll respondent said he's excited to cast an early ballot for Trump. The registered Republican said the economy is the biggest issue facing the country right now. We've lived through 4 years of him being president, and I would say they are 4 of the best years economically that I have lived through, he said. Then we've gotten to see 4 years of the opposition, and we've had a lot of inflation and a lot of illegal immigration. A lot of things I would say aren't the best for America. Trump leads with those living in rural areas, 55% to 35%, and those living in towns, 49% to 40%. But Harris carries those in cities, 61% to 33%, and suburbs, 59% to 36%. Among those without a college degree, Trump leads 51% to 39%, and Harris gets those with a college degree, 61% to 31%. An automation engineer dislikes that Harris was nominated without going through the usual primary process. They kind of put her in place of Joe Biden after the actual primary polls, he said. So, I don't think she was actually chosen by the people. And based off of interviews both of them have done, she said she would maintain the same style of policies as Biden, which I don't think have been that great for us. Different issues drive Democrats, Republicans. The issues driving Trump supporters are very different than those driving Harris supporters, the Iowa poll finds. Trump voters say the issue of inflation and the economy is what they've been thinking about most in their decision to support him. 49% of his supporters cite it as their most important issue. Another 25% say immigration is driving their decision. The top issue for Harris supporters is the future of democracy, with 51% citing it as their most important issue. Another 22% say it's abortion. The voting agenda is different for each of those groups of supporters. Some former Donald Trump supporters move away from him in 2024. Harris holds on to the support of nearly all Democrats, with 97% saying they will support her and 0% saying they will support Trump. But she also gets 5% of Republicans who say they will vote for her over Trump. Trump holds 89% of Republicans. The poll shows a small universe of people who say they previously supported Trump and have now switched their vote to someone else. Among those not supporting Trump, 16% say there was a time when they supported him, while 81% say they have never supported him. Another 3% are not sure. A 63-year-old poll respondent said he is a lifelong Republican who plans to vote for Harris this year. "It's not what I like about her, it's what I dislike about Trump," he said. "Since 2020 and the Capitol riots, I couldn't vote for Trump if he paid me, not for love nor money." He thought about casting a ballot for a third-party candidate, but he didn't want to lodge a protest vote. He wants to make sure Trump doesn't return to the White House. "To me, the biggest part of democracy is the ability to compromise," he said. And with Donald Trump and the MAGA movement, there is no compromise, even within their own party. Of those not supporting Trump, 67% consider themselves never-Trumpers. Another 26% say they are not never-Trumpers, and 8% are not sure. Among those who say they voted for Trump in 2020, 89% say they will do so again this year, and 4% will vote for Harris. Among those who say they voted for Biden, 93% say they will now vote for Harris, and 4% will vote for Trump. Among those who did not vote, Harris leads 47% to 44%. Thanks for watching, Wealth Tubers. With Harris taking the lead in Iowa, this race just got more intense. Let us know what you think in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more updates. See you next time.